Well, our colleague Bronwyn Nielsen, she sat down with the Transnet CEO Brian Molefe recently, where he discussed the Transnet strategy in attracting foreign direct investment.
Well, a couple of years ago, Transnet has had a reputation over the years. Even before I arrived, it had a good credit standing. And we announced the market demand strategy, and we've stuck to it. We said we would spend 300 billion revitalizing equipment, that we would generate revenue to pay for the 300 billion, and that we will only borrow 100 billion. And we're still on track with that program. Our financial ratios, our balance sheet has not been compromised. In fact, it has been growing from strength to strength in the last 5 years. Investors are quite happy with that, happy to buy Transnet bonds.
A lot of support coming from Canada and the US. Is that post very successful roadshows into those territories?
You'll remember that when we bought the 1,000 locomotives, well, we are still buying them. When we announced the tender was awarded to the Chinese company, China South Rail, China North Rail, and
General Electric and Bombardier.
Bombardier. So in Canada and in the United States, they have the exports agencies, export support agencies that are able to give guarantees for exports coming out of Canada or the United States. In the United States, it's called US Exim, and in Canada, it's Canada Exim. So what we did is we applied for the guarantees for the locomotives that we were going to be buying from Bombardier and from the US. And this was granted, despite the fact that we will manufacture the locomotives in South Africa. They were regarded as exports out of Canada and the United States because we bought from American and Canadian companies. So we were able to get guarantees of about 13 billion rand, and we're able to conclude loans on the back of those guarantees.
Are you confident of future support from the global bond environment?
Of course, of course. We have quite a few sources that are available to us to fund the program. As we have said before, the Global Medium-Term Note Program, which is international bond issues. In fact, last year we were, or in the last financial year, we issued an international bond denominated in rand for about 5 billion rand, which was quite a bold move, and it was taken up by European and American investors. There is appetite for Transnet's dollar-denominated bonds. The domestic market is always deep and liquid, and we issue there every fortnight. We have facilities with the African Development Bank, and now the Chinese are also saying they can come to the party to the extent that we're buying in China.
How can we take Transnet's success and extrapolate that to other state-owned entities in the country?
I think the other state-owned entities are perhaps not doing that badly. They just have different challenges to ours. And some,
Brian, you know you're on television and you're going to be quoted as saying the other state-owned enterprises are not doing as badly. You happy? You don't want to refocus that statement?
Well, let me rephrase the statement. I don't think the other state entities are doing very badly.
I see the addition of very badly. I'll give you that.
They're not doing badly at all because they just have different challenges to the ones that we have, and they are trying their best to handle the challenges that they have.
Have they come and asked you for some advice on those challenges?
Well, we have forums. For example, the state-owned entities that are under the Department of Public Enterprises. We meet, we have chairpersons and CEOs forum that meets with the minister periodically. So we share information and advice there.
Do you think then, let me stay on the state-owned enterprises for a little while longer, do you think there is potential to see dramatic turnarounds in the likes of an Eskom, the likes of a South African Airways?
Look, I mean, the last time I checked, today, yesterday, and the day before yesterday, this whole month, South African Airways aeroplanes are flying. It's just there's a focus on particular problems at SAA, and sometimes I think blown out of proportion. The last time I checked, the lights are on in South Africa. We do have periodic problems with switching off of the lights and so on, but generally the lights are on. I mean, every day people go home, and in the evening they press a switch on the wall and the lights come on. More often
With
than
the
not.
suspension of top management at Eskom, would you put your hand up for the job? If they came to you and said, Brian Molefe, we want you to run Eskom, would you do it?
I think that is an unfair question.
Let's move on. Let's talk about infrastructure and the role that Transnet can play in Africa.
Yes. Well, our plans, we realize that rail is going to be quite important for the development of the African continent, and we are positioning ourselves to be able to supply the equipment that is going to be required, and that is why we are moving towards becoming an original equipment manufacturer. We're not just looking at locomotives, we're also manufacturing wagons. We're also looking at engineering in port equipment and seeing how we can improve technology in port equipment. So we are positioning ourselves to bring in the latest technologies, to being the supplier of choice for developments in rail and ports on the continent.
What traction, you've alluded to the amazing traction that you're getting in the international environment. What traction are you having with business leaders and government leaders on the African continent in terms of the role that you can play in changing the infrastructure game?
President Zuma announced at the function where we were launching the 95 locomotives that the AU has taken a decision to make Transnet Engineering of South Africa the supplier of choice for rail equipment and rail developments on the continent. So already I think we have made a lot of progress in marketing our capabilities to the extent that the AU has endorsed us, and the AU will actively encourage other African countries to look at us when they want to buy locomotives or equipment for rail, or when they need expertise.
Brian, you've also recently been quoted as expressing concern over falling coal prices. Can I ask you to elaborate on the point you were making?
Well, the coal prices have fallen, as you know. Our customers are not just coal prices, commodity prices, iron ore as well, and our customers are coal manufacturers, coal producers that are exporting coal, and they have not getting the prices that they had been hoping to get in rand terms. And so what has happened, especially during this year that is about to end, the financial year that is about to end in March, is that we have not been able to get the increases in our services to them, because they have complained that they're not getting money. The prices have not increased. In fact, prices have been dropping. And so we have relented. And so while we have continued to improve our service and carry record amounts of coal on our rail, record amounts of iron ore and other goods, we have not been, it has not been translating into turnover that it should have translated into.